Sammy and the little girl here with you guys. Thanks for being here. Excuse the noise as always. Sam is not a quiet dog, and he's kind of burly and clumsy, but he is a friend of ours. So I hope all the new people can be okay with that. I'm not an actress. This is not a polished channel. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I'm not an expert in anything. And the more information I come across, the more I'm struck with the fact that I really do not know anything about how things actually operate here. So another last quick disclaimer. Please keep in mind that once you have information, you are responsible. Quotes and cliches and even song lyrics that last throughout time and have a residual effect have that effect because they have truth in it. Because only truth stands forever. Only truth is eternal. Everything else falls down. Love is eternal. Truth is eternal. Relationship with one another can indeed be eternal, and these things are now being proven through quantum mechanics. So what we try to do on this channel is take a logical and reasonable, real-world physical approach first, and then we try to dissect and defragment the visuals and the words that are being used to determine what is coming through from the Spirit. Now, if you have the Ruach HaKodesh within you, if you have the Holy Spirit and you listen to it, it's your inner JC, your inner Jiminy Cricket. Once you start listening to that more and more, like any other muscle or any other skill, the more you practice using it, the better it becomes. And I don't want to say like that it's ever finished, right? Because if we are then eternal, if you are creating in yourself, if you are, and I'm going to use a couple words here, and please, again, let's not be superstitious, but if you can alchemize yourself into love itself, into truth itself, and you too can be eternal. These things are truths that are coming forth, and it's amazing that when we get to the root of a thing, we keep getting down to like the same causes or the same sources, that's a better word, the same sources for what we're seeing happening and manifesting in our life today and with current events. So I do think the channel has its place. I think that we can be helpful and useful to each other, especially when we're sharing in messages. I'm going to go ahead and turn the chat on. I like to do it so you can all see that it's live and it is on and working. Okay. Thank you for being here. So now, once you know certain information, you are then responsible for it. I really like that also about the Mormon church, the LDS church. I really like their church, and it's sad that I'm just not a joiner, I guess, but I can't come into agreement with certain things. So then it's like, even the Catholic church where I was raised, there are certain things there that I just can't come into agreement with. So it leaves me on the fringes, right? And this is what we're seeing happening now. Everybody's being sorted and filed in the real world into like these compartments, right? These different avenues, these different routes, byways, highways. Now that you are going to know this information, though, you are then responsible, okay? Once you know it is wrong to tell a lie, you are responsible every time you tell a lie. Now, once you get into things being premeditated, or because of that being a venial or mortal type of transgression, I don't want to go there right now. This isn't that type of video. I just want to let you know that once we become aware of certain things, we are then responsible for it, right? If we allow it to continue, if we do not declare verbally, and I know that I get a lot of grief for this today, but you need to do these things verbally. And it's not so much, don't worry about the pitch or the tone of your voice right now, as far as affecting the frequency and vibration of your own body and the immediate space around it. Focus on freeing yourself of these attachments, because that alone, heart creates frequency. It's not just sound, right? We are told that the heart comes through the words that a person uses. Well, the true words that a person uses. And oftentimes this is why when you backmask something, I was watching Zen Garcia yesterday, they talked a little bit about that. Once you reverse somebody's speech in their audio, it gives up certain secrets about that individual. And I think numbers, gematria works that way too. Certain individuals, they might not try to put out numbers. They're just constantly, we all have attachments. We all have spiritual attachments. We all have our own dominions, just like the angels do, and the demonic lower level beings. We all have our dominions and our domains. Once certain things come into our awareness, we are responsible then for either sharing that information or keeping it to ourselves. But what we are most responsible for is, are we going to continue in this habitual behavior just because we're so attached to it and we enjoy it so much? Or now that we know that maybe we know the source of it, where it comes from, if we continue doing that, then are we in error? Because once you're in error, let me be very clear, a hole gets formed in your spiritual armor, right? Bible readers will understand that. I mean, it's called the armor of God, right? Don the full armor of God each and every day. The breastplate of righteousness, the girdle of truth, the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of truth. These are the things that you need to get through this real world matrix RPG that we seem to find ourselves in, especially today. Like, the veils are falling down. We're seeing this more and more. So when we get into this information, we're now responsible for it. Do you see in the image, in the 1 cup of coffee, you have the Mayan or Aztec symbolism happening there, the artwork, and then in the other one, you'll see Victorian times, and it looks like they're giving coffee to a sick woman. I love how when a woman is sick or she's deemed to be hysterical, the men around her gather, and instead of rallying, they seem to force things upon us that aren't good for us. And that can be male or female, but I was talking about specific situations there, as in with the artwork. So, and doctors and experts, they wear these white coats, and we're raised to believe everything that they say as gospel. I like my doctor. Let me be very clear. I have a good doctor. I'm not telling you to give up your physician or anything like that. I'm telling you that the source of these things are all done intentionally, with intention. But we should remain steadfast and walk this out the same way, no matter what or who we're dealing with. Now, once you come into awareness of certain information, I don't know why that did that. I have all the notifications off. Apologies. You're responsible for, how you then, are you going to remove that thing from your life now that you know where it comes from? Are you going to continue with that habitual behavior now that you know where it comes from? We have so many things, right, we do unconsciously throughout the day that we were just raised doing, right? Make the doctor's appointment, go to the doctor, go to the dentist, let them do whatever it is they do to your teeth. The first time I had been to the dentist in years, and it was because I was pregnant. I finally had insurance because I was just a single person, working, waitressing, just living. And I didn't have insurance back then. You didn't have to have it. And so I don't have things I don't feel like I don't need. But when I got pregnant, I got it, and I went to the dentist, and it's almost like they're using a Dremel tool on your teeth. And it can't be good for you. And I said, I understand tartar buildup and all that, but this is a bit extreme. It feels like you're blowing away chunks of my teeth. Just things like that. We are trained to trust everyone who has on a white coat. And, it's funny because white robes and garments are what priests and priestesses wore back in the day, in the pyramids when they did their temple rituals. And I don't think those were all bad either. We are told certain things are bad to keep us from them and to keep us in the dark, as in ignorance. Sammy, what are you doing to Mommy? I'm sorry, he's done with his peanut butter. I think he's thanking me. But he's like bowling me over. You're big and lumpy. You're going to hurt Mommy one of these days. Okay, so let's get down to it. I rambled enough. Coffee comes from the cocoa bean, right? Cacao is how they used to pronounce it. And for some reason, that jostles almost an ancient memory inside of me, and I don't know why. You know how I feel about reincarnation now. I think they gain some type of passive consent to use certain vessels so they can become younger and just keep living life. What happens to that spirit or soul? Well, you consented to it, and this place operates based upon free will and choice. Hey, you guys, stop that. You have to be nice, Samson. Be nice. Stop. He's all worked up because he's had his peanut butter, and they were running around playing. Stop. So, cacao is the original word and terminology for cocoa bean. Coffee and cocoa, chocolate, that us women love so much and crave, and that's probably what they're giving the woman in bed in the picture, is hot cocoa. Okay, cacao, hot cacao. Back in the day, back in these times, when we say coffee, we're talking about a syrupy beverage, obviously only for adults, intentionally drank because they knew that it would bring them closer to spirit, right? Closer to the spiritual realm. You hear about this with things like Blue Lotus. I drink Blue Lotus tea some evenings with mugwort, and it helps you sleep. It helps you stay asleep. It's natural. It's not a pill, right? And it is allowing you also to have more lucid dreams, and so you gain more control of your own mind, of your own domain, and you're the master of your own domain in your sleep. So we hear about these things, but as we're doing them, do we actually know what we're doing and where they come from, much like we hear about with yoga? Sit down and be nice. So I found this, and I wanted to start here. Present in Aztec mythology, cacao was often used in sacrificial ceremonies to lift the spirits of the soon-to-be sacrificed. So it sounds like they did this almost as a merciful thing, a merciful part of the ritual. They would lift that person's spirit out of their body before they ended it. I was trying to find a tactful way to say that. Before they deleted the vessel, okay? I think there is a place for some of the knowledge of ancient religions, but let me be very clear. Anything that wants some type of blood exchange, I don't think that is something good. I'm not trying to promote that. I'm a pacifist. I don't promote violence in any type of way. So I want to be very clear about that. This is research we're doing to find out where our modern day practices root from, or where they come from, okay, where they flow from. So let's check that out real quick. Choco Vivo. So is it all about chocolate? I'm going to turn, there we go. That might be better for you who are following along visually. What is an authentic cacao ceremony? And I said the other day, these people are willing sacrifices. They make themselves into a willing sacrifice, and they are treated like very well for it, prior to being ended, of course. Hey, Firelap Jones, cacao rituals equals 201. Is that a bad number? Well, I mean, all numbers come from God. Again, we're not going to be rooted in superstition because, like I said, there is a place for certain things. God left us certain benefits here for our bodies to be healed through what we consume and put into it. We're talking more about the ritualistic habit, right? But are we? Is it? I think in this case it's both. So thank you for sharing that. I know that Dion shows 201 a lot, so it must be some. I know 22 is a big number. They're big on that around here. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. I'm starting to feel like I married the Antichrist. Like, I don't even know what else to think about my life at this point. So I pray a lot. What is an authentic cacao ceremony? And this is from September 19th, 2019. It's a very interesting day that they chose for this type of article. And if you know anything about dates, that might ring a bell for you. And you might see visually there what's going on. Order of Illuminati, 201. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you for that. Many people ask, what is a real or authentic cacao ceremony? We also wondered ourselves what that was. We were on a mission to discover and explore if there was anything that was truly as authentic as to how the Mayans used cacao in a ceremony. Now, again, these people were oftentimes willing sacrifices, but in modern day practices, they gain passive consent. This is why I don't want to say preach, because that's not, I don't think that's what I do. And I don't want to say teach, because I'm still learning. So that's why I speak to that topic so much. We need to wield our consent with the sword of the Spirit. We need to wield it as the tool and instrument that it is, okay? And we need to use our ears and really actively listen when people are talking to us. These other people, they practice ignoring you. If you hit on something that is important, they will keep on talking, and I call it, they run me over verbally with like a Mack truck or the Zamboni. Like, they just run over my words and they just, you know what I mean? It's not a two-way conversation. I always know then what topics to stay away from or to research, depending on, how I posed the sentence or how I said something to that person. Again, I don't try to give away too much because of the situation I'm in, but I do also try to help others who might be being hampered down without even realizing it through passive consent to these individuals. And I choose that word very carefully, individuals. I don't say people, and I don't say human beings. I don't even say beings. In this case, I just say individuals. And make of that as you will. So they're going to make this look lovely and authentic, right? And genuine. And because we're so glossy and plastic and polished today, which that part is right. That's true. But then we're talking about ritualistic sacrifice here. Origin of cacao ceremonies originally served as religious rituals for the ancient native Mesoamerican cultures, used as a tool to lift the spirit of the soon-to-be sacrificed in the Aztec kingdom, required in the marriage ceremony due to its link to fertility, and even a part of the baptism ceremony and the birth of the child. Okay, so it's not used as a tool to lift the spirit of the soon-to-be sacrificed. Stop. So they use it for some type of astral projection to spare that person the pain, the physical pain the body might feel. Required in the marriage ceremony due to its link to fertility. That's interesting. I've talked about that a lot lately, about how the goal seems to be to get as many people pregnant as fast as possible. It's just a trend I'm noticing, especially in very young people. They're getting younger and younger. And I don't even know how to phrase it. Millennials didn't want to have families and stuff, but you see this other extreme, right? People running out and just having babies. And I'm going to be as tactful as possible. Yes, we should stand against the sacrifice of innocent life. I call them little martyrs. I know because I have experience with that, and I know what it does to the woman and the child at this point. I'm no longer in ignorance. But right now, I would be very careful who I am choosing to knock boots with. I'm just showing my age really bad there. Who I'm choosing to canoodle with, to have nookie with. What's really interesting, and I just have a lot of random knowledge. John Titor, the time traveler story, in his goodbye post on Reddit or 4chan, wherever it was found originally, when he said he was going back into obscurity, he really laid it to our current society and how materialistic we are and how we don't appreciate anything. But he also warned us and said, be very careful who you have relationship with, and extremely careful with and who you kiss. Do not kiss anyone. And he used a very innocent word there, but obviously if you want to be careful who you're kissing, you definitely don't want to be just making hay with whoever comes along, because I don't think we are all the same at this point. I don't think we were the same in the beginning. I think that we've been deceived, and I think this is all some society they set up to see what would happen in part. So let's continue. Linked to fertility, even a part of the baptism ceremony and the birth of the child. That bothers me, and I'll tell you why that bothers me. Number one, you're using it to help a person come out of their body for alleged ascension, right? To lift the spirit of the soon-to-be sacrificed in the Aztec kingdom, to spare them. They're being humane there, and these people are giving up their lives willingly, so they have to go through this. I mean, this is a process. This is a ritual. So they are either going to be struggling the whole time, or they are going to be compliant the whole time, right? Much of this was by the person offering themselves up because they would be so honored, but also because they knew probably they could go into another vessel. That's why this is weird to me that that's even done. Obviously, much like musical chairs, you're not going to have enough vessels for the amount of spirits. You're going to have accidents happening. You're not going to have enough people consenting. So then you have to figure out how to gain consent without telling them it's happening, and then take them through all these rituals, right? Without them even realizing it. So that maybe you can hijack their body to have this false reincarnation that we've talked about, that I believe we are able to partially confirm through the research we've done. If you missed it, it's in like the last couple of weeks of lives about the Egyptian Babylonian reincarnation and how it doesn't actually happen at birth, right? These people, obviously, they've been around a long time. They know what they're doing. And so that's why it bothers me if it's used in baptism ceremonies and the birth of a child, because you're kicking out one soul so you can put another one in there. And that's foul to me. That's worse. That's the same thing as abortion. You're aborting a soul's life. You're cutting it short. And it didn't agree to that, right? So this is what I think is happening. Like, I'm going to be very clear. Like, and I know it sounds crazy. Like, obviously, I am not a nitwit, but I've seen way too much the last few years to think of anything else. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, then this part of the message or video just isn't for you yet. So cacao in the ancient Americas was used in virtually any ceremony of importance. What I find interesting too is they're using the coffee for any situation that is deemed to be spiritual, or a new birth, right? A new beginning, death. This drink must be very special to some lowercase g god, right? This must a demon, that whatever deity they're worshiping here, and apparently it's a couple of them: the maize god, which is the corn god, and the god of the winds or something yesterday, which we know who that is called in our book. So we'll continue and see what else we can find out. How is cacao used in ceremony? It was discovered by the Olmecs. We read that yesterday. Is staple in the Mayan Aztec cultures for centuries. Cacao had a place in these empires as a sacred, elite, and ritualistic plant. Present in Aztec mythology, cacao was often used. And remember, mythology means history, doesn't mean false. So when you talk about Greek mythology, those are true stories, and we're told that they're not. I'm not saying that, I've never seen a giant myself, right? And I've never seen a lowercase g god myself, as far as I'm aware. I do believe I've run into a couple of angelic beings wearing human skin or whatever, human suits, costumes. I don't know. Anyways, I think that the world is a different place than what we were told. People, certain people, alleged gurus, teachers, alleged authorities on this subject, make millions of dollars off of the books they write. People like me and you still have to deal with being called crazy because we can believe it's possible, because we've lived too much life or we've had so many off-the-wall experiences. I just think that's interesting to note in human behavior. You'll find that we cover a lot of human behavior on this channel. So it was often used in sacrificial ceremonies to lift the spirit of the soon-to-be deceased. Aztec mythology even states that God created man. Okay, this is weird. And I mentioned this yesterday in the other video, that I had heard about corn having human DNA. Now, when you think about the Bible telling us, is anyone here to hear this? No, but that's all right. When you think about how the Bible tells us, maize and cacao among other plants. Well, I'm going to continue. Maybe I'll hit on that later. So God created man from maize, from corn, and cacao, among other plants brought from the mountains of sustenance. So we know what a golem is, right? From like Lord of the Rings and D&D. Most people at least have heard of it, a golem. It's Jewish mythology is where that comes from, okay? God creating man from the earth, right? That's basically a golem. That's what we're talking about. But we're talking about man trying to do that when we talk about a golem. They're actually crediting God, their God, whoever that is, for creating man from maize and cacao. And we're told it's from the earth, right? So in the end of Revelation, and in other parts where God has to, they say God is wrathful. And again, I don't want to use it as a punishment. I think it's a cleansing. That's my opinion. Much like a farmer, sometimes they will set fire to the first layer of soil if they cannot rotate their crops, so that next year it will be rich in minerals again when they plant, and they don't have to rotate their crop that way. Obviously, God plans on having people around for a long time, or she would have done away with us by now. Like, it's just that simple. Yes, I know what the books say about the end of the world or the end of the age is more accurate. When it says God has to send fire to the earth the next time because the earth has had too much sin wrought on it, and it has the blood of the martyrs in the very soil. So think about that. A lot of the Bible is about farming, and I've talked about that before too. But in the end of the age, God does not send water. This time he sends fire to, quote unquote, destroy the earth. Well, we've got the fire of the Holy Spirit, because it also says at the end of the age, God will rain down his spirit upon all things, all creatures, all creation, everything. First of all, so we have that, right? And then in another verse, it says God will send down fire. So is it literal fire too, and a spiritual fire? Usually that's what we're finding, is that these things are double-sided. There's a spiritual cause or a spiritual footprint that we can see, that where these things stem from. And then we see the materialistic physical manifestation into the earth realm here where we are. This is interesting. So if God has to cleanse the earth because of the blood of the martyrs, right? Because of wars and sacrifices and all these things that man has done, when he sends that fire, it is likely to cleanse the earth and not to, quote unquote, punish, okay? When judgment happens for every individual, at that point, then you can talk about that with your maker. Even in Mayan mythology, the importance of cacao remains with the god of maize, being birthed from a cacao pod. Oh my gosh, all I can think of is Cabbage Patch Kids with the little baby head and the cabbage around the baby head. I mean, I used to love those things, but that is weird. That is a funky story. Have you ever seen, and don't go look for this, okay? I'm not telling you to look for this because it's weird. Hey, you good? I'm not God, but I'm good. I am well today, thank you. Okay, so where was I? I'm sorry, I wanted to say hello. What was I talking about? Oh, fiddlesticks. I like connecting all these little dots of things that we've studied in the past. That's just weird to me. I don't know what to think of that. Oh, have you ever seen the body farms? I don't know if you guys, like forensic scientists, they have to have some way to study, right? And you have to understand that like the medical field and the science field are supposed to be ever evolving and changing. So it's a field of study and learning. That's why it's very hard to quote unquote sue a doctor for malpractice or something like that, because that it is assumed, this is passive consent. It is assumed that that when you go to a doctor, they're basically experimenting on you and trying to figure out what will work for you, right? So, I mean, we have to understand some of these things. I can't stand that spelling, I won't even lie. And I know why you do it, but okay. So, let's continue. So God created man from maize and cacao, all right? With the god of maize being birthed from a cacao pod. So cocoa is dark in color, and then you have corn. So they're thinking that the one who made them from like the earth, or something that's the color of the earth, which again, we have clay, which is talked about in the Bible. So creation stories are all somewhat similar, but this one's just weird. And I talked about that yesterday a little bit. Things with seeds, we're never told to and the Bible doesn't tell us everything, right? It doesn't tell us to tie our shoes, but we know, we learn about this. It doesn't tell us, I don't know. It doesn't tell us not to cook our food, right? But we find now that cooking it at high temperatures is allegedly supposed to not be good for you. It takes all the nutrients out of the food. So, we have this tug of war, and we have to discern. It's up to you to decide how you're going to move and navigate and operate and function in this world. So, as an offering, here we go. Gods are even stated to have bled onto cacao pods, intertwining cacao and their blood. That's fascinating. So is that a little g god? Is it the one of the fallen ones? Like, what is happening here? Is it an alien? I don't know. What do you guys think? Well, I know what I think, but I'm open to being corrected if I'm wrong. As an offering of a sacred nature to the gods, cacao held an importance in both culture that relates it to both jovial mental states, an essential part of the human makeup. Now remember, this was written in 2019. Everything that the world tells us is good for us, in my personal opinion, is something we should run from at this time. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm speaking in very vague terms regarding stuff like that. So the flowers were cited as a remedy for fatigue, while the beans were used in conjunction with other plants to help alleviate fever. With the arrival of cacao in Europe, many new medical uses for cacao were discovered. These uses often employ cacao to improve digestive issues, as a nutrient to treat abnormally thin and weak patients, and as a stimulator of the nervous system to improve mood and virility. So, on one hand, we're told to make babies, go forth and procreate, multiply, right? But if we keep doing that, will this cycle of rebirth keep continuing? Will we never get to ascend? Is this our eternal home? What do you guys think? I have issues with the digestive issues one. Everyone I know that has been a big coffee drinker ends up with ulcers. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, whether or not that is coincidental. Discern that for yourself, but just so you're aware. And I wonder if they do that on studies where, because we're told every other year the egg is good, the egg is bad, the egg is good, the egg is bad. But when they do these studies, do they actually have the people eating how they normally would eat? Are you eating one egg and a pound of bacon? Is that why your health degraded? You know what I'm saying there? Like there has to be some, we're not, I feel like we're not asking the right questions when it concerns our own state, right? And I feel like we're not advocates enough for our own person, for our own health, for our own mental state, for our own being. We need to take more accountability and responsibility so we can be an advocate to, and I don't like using this word just because of how the more you use a thing, kind of the less sanctity it has. So I hate using words like empower, but it does. So let's see. The ancient cultures, sorry about that. I had to mess with the ducks. The ancient cultures, although continuously vanishing in the modern world, that is very interesting to me. And I think what'll be a good segue from this topic, we're going to look at societies that have vanished. For those of you who watched the 2 videos with the Nephilim RPG, we're getting back to that. I just need a break from that topic every now and again. It is a big part of my testimony, so it's almost painful to talk about that topic for me. So I hope you have a little compassion and painful, triggering. I hate that word too. I don't go for trends anymore. I used to be the one who set them. So it's trendy things are cringy to me. They make me like, my skin crawls now when I get around too many people in big groups. It's like, I don't know. You guys are cool because like we can relate and you come here, right? This is such a little channel. You have to actually be searching for some of the topics that we talk about, right? For the channel to be even seen. So I actually like that. Like that's a good thing, I think, right? But anyway, the modern cacao ceremony has been birthed out of the same ideas of the ancient cultures being tools for rejuvenation and self-discovery. Who is their god, though? I want to know this stuff. Like when you're drinking it, you're actually, that is you toasting them. Do you see what I mean? You're toasting or saying cheers to. You're coming into agreement with whatever god this is every morning. And I don't want to be over dramatic. I don't mean to be that way. But I also don't want to be understated where these things are coming from. They're coming from people who regularly promoted, propagated, and participated in ritualistic human sacrifices. Like that's what they did. Are we okay with this? Where is our society heading today? It's getting to be a mob mentality if you watch the mainstream media, or even mainstream YouTube is starting to really bother me again. And I don't know how long I will do this. Like I really want to get the laptop. I really want to make better videos. I really want to connect with people. But is this the right way to do it? Should I just go to being like a vagabond and just share Christ that way? Right? Like I'm torn about this, guys. Really, it is. I don't like the way society is set up, and it's painful to my spirit. And the whole point of the channel is to remind people, hey, you've got a spirit, and I'm going to point out all the things going on out around you so that maybe you'll see that again, and you'll make decisions that are better for you and those around you, right? What is cacao psychedelic? Cacao is labeled by the FDA as grass, generally regarded as safe. Huh. What does safe mean? What does safe mean? As safety. Safe. Huh. Remember, a cacao ceremony is not a trip or drug-induced ritual. Cacao ceremonies are a facilitator. Oh, I love that word. Of self. And New Age use that word all the time. Like it's actually a class. And I'm really interested in metaphysics only for the fact that I think it is a tool. Again, this is what I'm trying to do, is in a metaphysical nature to show you real world, everyday, current examples of God still being present in our society and in our lives, more importantly. So that word facilitator, what does that mean? Well, that's someone who is propagating this. They're helping this along. Cacao ceremonies are a facilitator. They are a help, or self-reflection and spiritual awakening, allowing one to consider who you are, analyze one's hopes, wishes, and dreams, and let go of the past in order to grow from it and build a better future for oneself and others. That sounds like a mission statement for a retreat. Like, seriously, I'm enjoying the research put into this material, this person did, this individual did. But again, I told you it was going to be that way, that they're going to glamorize this when it can't be stated clear enough. Especially, let me point out something that's happening, and let me use it as a real world example and point out a little hypocrisy. And again, it's a problem I have with my own home church, but I love my church. But I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I'm just going to get into a little hypocrisy that I'm seeing. And I can say that because I've been a part of it, like, right? So now I can maybe try to help other people see it and pull themselves out of it. There's this thing going on in the Catholic Church right now. Hold please. Okay, I'm going to keep going because I don't know. Again, there are certain topics that I don't know if I should touch or not. The rise in popularity of cacao ceremonies. While no specific cause can be ascertained to the rise in popularity of cacao ceremonies in the Western world. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. In the Catholic Church, there was this big to-do about the Pope allowing certain things to go on during Mass that were considered paganistic. It was the goddess of fertility. He was given like a totem, like an icon, a 3D idol figurine, a doll of this goddess of fertility. And it was a big to-do for months. That was all the YouTubers were talking about. That's all the little news channels were talking about. And if you are one of those people, and if you got that mad about that happening, and you still drink coffee after we go through this, you're being a Pharisee. You're a part of the problem. And again, I'm a part of the problem. You're a part of the problem. We all consume too much. And I mean, when I say consume, I mean buy and eat and just out there purchasing items, right? And purchasing things and content. We consume things like a lot. Like Pac-Man, right? And he's going after all those little I used to love Pac-Man. Kind of like that, right? So I just want to point out, if you're one of those people who got mad at something like that, at him being welcoming to another faith, and that's how I'm going to say that for now until I know more. It was the Mayan god of fertility, and I can't remember her name right now. But it's the same situational awareness, right? The Pope wasn't having any situational awareness to the source of where that gift was coming from. And that's what I'm talking about with things like cocoa beans, and even with the food that we eat. When we allow animals to be processed in a way that is not humane, we are part of the problem, right? We can't be an animal activist on one hand and wearing a leather coat. We have to make sure that things are created, produced responsibly. And so we should not be a part of these problems. If you're going to be consciously aware and moving forward as a growing individual and a growing spirit. And this is what we talk about. The Hopi prophecy talks about this, about there being two paths. And everyone who tries to go the path of high tech is going to falter. Everyone who goes back to the old ways, and I don't mean I mean old ways of nature, of respecting the earth and being careful with it. And if you take one, replace it with three. Don't take every berry on a bush, take every third one and only take 3 of those, right? Always leave a few more to grow and germinate. When I say responsibly sourced, that's the type of thing I'm talking about. So while no specific cause, and they're not going to tell you, they're not going to tell you what God this is, or where this, what God they're actually offering this up to. But think about that. As you have your morning coffee, you wake up, oh, you need that coffee to get your day started. You go to have your cup of coffee, you sit down, you take that nice big deep breath, and and you're almost thankful, right? You're grateful. You are toasting, cheering, you're having cheers, you're having drinks. The first thing you do isn't thank God for the day, you're thanking whatever entity this is. We need to be aware, conscious. When I say consciously aware, okay, for example, we're taught that brushing our teeth every day is good for us. So we wake up and we do that almost first thing in the morning and before we go to bed. It has replaced prayer time. So much so, right, that we are told to do this. All the while not knowing that there may or may not be harmful agents in there, which may or may not be called fluoride. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, right? Look at all the things we do that are actually not good for us. This could be very spiritually bad for us. And is the information they've given to us about the health benefits true? Almost all the people that I know that drank coffee were in poor health, right? These things, and granted, they were drinking too much of it. It was not cases of moderation. And this is why I talk about extremism too. We can't be extreme with much of anything in this world. And they're using a lot of reverse psychology. When they say you'll own nothing and be happier, like that's true. And I think that came from me too. Like all this stuff, I feel like I'm almost a beta test. I don't want to even speak anymore because I feel like I'm just giving ammo to somebody. It's getting really strange, guys, and I have to stop dismissing the consequences because they just keep happening. For example, every channel that I sub to, even the little ones that I go out of my way to find, they end up being huge channels. A couple years later, they end up being like huge channels. Why is that? And almost every channel that I watch like that, after a few days that I'm sub to them, they're making some announcement that they have the CV. Are you kidding me? Every time I sub to a new channel, they make that announcement. Is CV code for, hey, she's sub to us, let's gaslight her? And that's an extreme, like I'm being dramatic there. That's not parable, but it's kind of a parallelism, right? But that's how it feels on my end. That might not be true, but that's how it feels. So for all intents and purposes, for me, it's true. I literally feel like true man. So I think we all have to be mindful in these times of the things that we say and the things that we're doing. But understand that they're regarding you as a child and they're using reverse psychology and they're mocking us right in our faces. And I talked about that a little in yesterday's live. But we need to understand these things. And sometimes you get so into that habitual behavior that you end up being on automatic pilot. That's the problem with routine and structure. That's how our spirit is kind of ground out of us, because it ends up just being our body doing these things because of muscle memory, because it's what we've always done. But does that mean that's what's best for us just because we've always done it that way? No, I don't think so. I think there's absolutely room for change and growth. So individuals not afraid of the new experience. Oh my gosh. Many testimonies of individuals hearing of cacao ceremonies and participating in them can be found online. This brings us to the obvious of different ways people enjoy their experiences. And here we go. Let the gaslighting begin. Individuals not afraid of the new experience have traveled to Latin America, participated in these ceremonies, felt transformed, packed these experiences onto their backs, and unloaded them onto the open communities of San Francisco, New York, Portland, and London. I read like that sometimes to show you the gaslighting. I was a marketing student. I know how this stuff works. This is somebody trying to persuade you to a thing. Individuals not afraid of the new experience have traveled to Latin America. Stronghold, stop. Individuals not afraid. What are you, chicken? Don't be chicken. Everybody that goes loves it. They're transformed. You know what I mean? Much love, Dion. How are you? Welcome. Always glad to see you. So I'm reading like that, almost as if I'm a movie narrator, to show you they are trying to sell you something. Why would they want you to pack up and go to Latin America to be a part of a cacao ceremony where just above they told you that they were used in ritualistic sacrificial ceremonies? Why would they then try to get you to leave your home, everything you know, the routine that you're familiar with, the family that you know, and go to another country? That's not always safe. And in these times, in these days, it is downright dangerous for certain individuals like myself, like you. But they're daring you to do it. Okay? The residents of these towns, finding enjoyment and transformative experience in the ceremony, spread the word, and soon cacao ceremonies became a staple in the yoga and shaman communities. I believe there are true shaman. I believe they are probably what we call saints, sages, mystics. I do believe that. However, again, you're never going to find these people. They're not people who sell these things. They're not going to have a website, or if they do have one, it's not going to be like new agey. And it might not even be spiritually driven. It might just be something where they sell things, or, maybe they do a blog to try and put out, some information that way. But you're never going to find a true spiritual person, like a mystic, a saint of today, of the modern world. What we talked about the other day when I split the live up into two and did the one about the 36 holy men and or women in the world at any given time that kind of keep it going. Like, again, what we hear in the Truman Show, right? It's the same type of concept. So we talked about that a little bit as well. I don't think you're going to find true saints or mystics or true teachers of spirituality today. They are not going to be people who are paid well. They're not going to be people who are doctors or physicians. What word was I looking for there? They're not going to be like big time parapsychologists. They're not going to be people like Dolores Cannon. They're just not going to be big like that unless it's after they die, right? It's just not, it doesn't work that way. Now, if you come across one of these people and your heart and soul and it just rings true, right? Like a bell, it resonates within you. Like, this person has what I need. They are a tributary of the source, of the vine, right? And I told you, I thought that's kind of how it worked. That's one thing I heard the Heaven's Gate cult leader say that I actually liked was how he said there's a few people, right, in the world at any given time, and they might have a certain bit of whatever this is that helps people to ascend. And you either have to hear them or see them or be around them for it to kind of rub off on you. And then when they're gone, you might be that next person who starts to pass off. I don't want to call it a contagion because then it sounds bad, but I hope you understand what I mean there. Let's continue. So they're trying to get people now to go to these ceremonies. I told you they were trying to tell you something in the beginning, and I like the research that this person did. How to choose the right chocolate. Additive-free, 100% pure cacao is used in order to experience the full bliss caused by anandamide and theobromine in cacao. I'd like to know the gematria for those words. Anandamide and theobromine. And I'd really, really like to break those down and see what the heck they are and the properties of them. We look at that stuff sometimes. Imperative in the choosing process is to make sure the chocolate is kept in a cool, dry place. No kidding. Okay, it tells you how to prepare it right here. We choose to forego any sweetener in order to experience the ceremony just as the Mayans did, keeping the cacao as pure as possible. So again, I can't be a hypocrite. I drink things like Blue Lotus tea, and I drink lavender tea. I will use mugwort drops sometimes. I'm really into the mushroom tinctures right now. So I get it. Like, I do. my problem again is the part where it is a ritual for us. It is part of habitual behavior. And it seems to be an offering to some type of god. So let's check that out real quick. Oh, here we go. They believe that cacao was a gift from God. Oy, there's a word. Quetzalcoatl. Okay. So it'd be Quetzalcoatl, maybe? Consumed it as a bitter beverage called, yeah, there we go, during rituals and as a form of currency. So they traded with cacao. Cacao was money. Cacao was mammon. That puts a whole new spin on this too. As a form of currency, guys. It's their dough, it's their bread, it's their money, it's their shells. Wow, that's crazy. Can you imagine, ladies, just for a minute, a society where instead of gold coins being traded, it's actually like those those candies that are gold coins, but on the end, you unwrap the gold and it's chocolate on the inside. Could you imagine? Women would run the show if cacao was traded as like the currency. I kid you not. We have the best palates for the chocolate. But that's why did he come to Eve first? They always go to the woman first, but that's weird to me. Okay, so we know that they think this God gave it to them. And when they drink it or what have you, that's them being thankful and grateful and, cheering them, toasting them, and saying thank you. A sacred cacao ceremony almost always incorporates spiritual practices such as meditation, yoga, dance, or breath work to enhance the ceremony's cacaos. And I'm not saying all these things. I'm not that person. I'm not superstitious where I'm going to say, if you do some stretches, man, that's not good. You should absolutely take care of your vessel. You should absolutely meditate. However, the way they're selling these things is not good, okay? Meditation should not empty your mind. You don't empty your mind to meditate. That's not how that works. Meditation means you are strongly thinking about one specific thing to either get an answer about it or to manifest it, right? So if they've got all these people watching all these end of the world movies, why do you think they do that? Because they want you always in fear, right? And maybe they want us to manifest that. What is cacao used for spiritually? The ancient mind, heart opening. Modern research shows that the active ingredient, theobromine, widens the blood vessels and stimulates the heart. So, again, I'm not a doctor, but if I personally, knowing this, my mother's side of the family has certain issues with the heart, I would not drink that because it's going to exacerbate that condition. I'm not telling you what condition it is. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you as somebody with a little knowledge and experience in that area, those two things conflict. Heart opening, yeah, are you on any type of medication for that actual heart? Do you ask? I don't know, man. I don't know, guys. Everything should be questioned now. What was the ancient use of cacao? Chocolate is made from. Sacred to the ancient minds, they consumed it as a ritual, and it was used as currency. Oh, there we go. The cacao tree, Theobroma cacao itself, was linked to Hunahpu, the maize god, the corn god. The corn god. Oh my gosh. And we share DNA with corn. That is creepy. And with pigs. Like, pig skin creeps me out. It is so much like people's skin. Like, you can practice, if you're a tattoo artist, you can practice on it, right? That's creepy. Like so much is made from it too. Like footballs, they call it pig skin. And it's just, it's very humanish in its texture and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it creeps me out. Maybe it's just me now. Maybe I can't abide by things made of animal. I'm good with wool. Like, wool's cool. Ceremonial cacao is a term for high-grade, fine-flavor, traditional chocolate. And see, that's what I'm talking about. This is more, when we talk about cacao, it's not coffee of today. It's definitely not a hot chocolate packet of today. right? So it's not, the effects to you aren't going to be as strong. The whole thing is the ritual of it. Okay. Number one. Number two, some people are going to seek this out now. They like their coffee. They want stronger coffee. Some people like their hot cocoa, but they're like, man, I can have the best of both worlds. I can just have the cacao without the bitter flavor of the bean, and I can drink it that way. Of course, it's probably going to cost them more. Cacao was such a significant part of Mesoamerica culture that the Olmecs, the Greater Maya Empire, and the Aztecs incorporated cacao into their creation mythologies. They viewed cacao as a gift from the gods, so much so that scientist Carlos Linnaeus named the cacao tree Theobroma, which meant food of the gods. See, I found out what it meant already. Ask and you shall receive. Wow, that's interesting. What chakra is cacao? And obviously it's the heart, right? And again, certain spiritual practices I'm not against, but I don't think everybody should participate in them or partake of them unless you know what you're doing, number one. Number two, unless you've arrived to that point. I'm totally starting to see the purpose in certain initiation ceremonies, but they can lose their quickening power, because that's why you do a ritual, right? Let's get to the real truth here. The reason that you do and you act out a physical ritual is that the goal is so that it quickens the spirit into some type of growth. Much like I said happened in my case with trauma. Trauma created in me the quickening of my Holy Spirit again, because I was not listening to it. My conscience was like seared in a big way. I'm not even kidding. Nobody could have turned me around but my maker. And it happened through trauma. That was the quickening agent. When certain rituals are done, that is the significance and the idea behind them, is to create some type of quickening in that person so that they have that spiritual, they make that spiritual leap, especially if you're like me and you were deadened. It is too. This is why I thank the people around me for for creating it. Doesn't mean all of it was good. It doesn't mean like, I don't think, I do thirst for justice, spiritually speaking. I think that everybody should experience somewhat what they put out there so that they know, okay, I shouldn't do this again because that's harmful and it really, really hurts, right? But for some of us, we are so deadened by our everyday practices. Everyday routine can do that to you, especially when you yourself, you're like, okay, I'm sick of this routine. I don't want to do this anymore. I really need something good to happen. And you think that is a relationship or an affair or trying to draw a new substance, or, all those things are damaging, right? All of those things are damaging. But we sabotage ourselves that way. Heart chakra, a cacao journey is a journey into the emotional center of the anahata. Wow, I'm learning all kind of things. Jason Starr, yes, staying away from God, thank you. I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean by that. A cacao journey is a journey into the emotional center of the anahata or heart chakra. Sorry, I'm opening a drink. Oh, straying away from God. I was going to be like, man, you're totally different, Jason Starr, than yesterday. Thanks for being here. Please hold while I open my lemonade. It's giving me problems. Oh my gosh. Me and packaging. I have to use my teeth to do everything. Me and packaging do not get along. Like, I'm so not mechanically inclined. It's terrible. That's funny. Okay. You guys are awesome that, you don't expect me to be all... I don't have to be super professional, I guess, because I don't have an agent and no sponsors to concern myself with. Is cacao high vibrational? See, now they're starting to learn how we operate. All are excellent additions to a diet focused on energetic frequency. The real high vibe star of the show at Vaz Haute Chocolat is cacao. God is our agent. Absolutely. But we have free agency. We are allowed to make our own choices. So that's where, again, like you just said, we have to take that free will and kind of give it back to God, or at least when I say that, I mean listening to our inner Jiminy Cricket, JC, Jesus Christ, Jim Carrey, the inner conscience that you have in there. And it is in there, but our daily habits and going into automatic pilot kind of numbs us. And it really does make us like androids. For all intents and purposes, we turn into NPCs ourselves. It happened to me. I pray that I'm not in that state any longer. And you can kind of tell I stutter a little bit now. It's hard for me to speak, but that's because I'm not just parroting or repeating things that I'm hearing. I'm actually trying to have a real conversation with you guys. Could that be from the programming food brainwashing? Absolutely. What you put in, and I've talked about this at great length, I am not a physical medical doctor, but I have experimented on my own body for the sake of others and for my own sake to see what would happen. That sounds bad when I say it that way. But that's what I've done for the last 4 years. And most of you know that by now. I might not have said it recently or on this channel, but basically, how I come to certain knowledge and information is by practicing on myself. You know, testing. Okay, I'm going to put this into my body and I'm going to see how I feel in 20 minutes. And some of those things obviously weren't good for it, right? But that was the only way for me to know, because my body is changing so much. I'm changing my physiology is changing since I've been saved. My body can't tolerate the same things that it once did. And so I have to experiment with it, and I have to see what helps it to function the best. And I don't think I'm an authority on these things, and I'm not an expert, but I'm definitely someone that maybe you can have a discussion with, and we can grow together from there. For Maya people, cocoa beans is used as a currency we know, for example, that a rabbit costs 10 beans and an earthen pot between 12 and 25. Oh, so like the artisans would get like the 25. Cocoa is also used for its medicinal properties. Hold, please. So when scripture tells us, like, you can only have one God, right? And I believe that, but I do believe every day we make a choice, and even every decision we make a choice. And it's very easy to stray outside of God's will for us, right? But he allows that. And it doesn't mean you're going to get struck down or he hates you. It just means that at that point you have to be brought back onto the proper course. And sometimes it's painful, right? My people realized its revitalizing qualities, and they used it to reduce indigestion, coughs, burns, and even stomach aches. See, that's the exact opposite of what I've always known coffee to be. That's why bad coffee, like bitter coffee, really burns your belly, because it's not good for you. Again, I'm not a doctor. I will say that all day long, but I know from experience. I've seen this and I've experienced it. And so, again, the coffee and the cocoa today is not the same as it was back then. So at least if you're going to drink it, I honestly would get like I would spring for the real beans, and grind them at the store if you can't do it at home. And be very careful what kind you buy, because depending on the locale of the world, it is like diamonds. It is, they trafficked people and whatnot. It is not healthy, right? The way people drink it, right? And with all the creamers and the, just that, how much weight you can gain alone from the creamers that are in it. And again, I'm not getting into like trendy topics about like fat phobia and all that stuff. Like, common sense tells us, we know. We don't have to have people tell us. Like, we know what's bad for us. And people just don't want to hear it anymore. Like, they don't. And maybe we have to just let people come to their realizations on their own. It's not good to wake a sleepwalker in real life. Maybe it's not good to wake a spiritual sleepwalker either. And I know that my trauma helped me, but it also scarred me. Like, I'm never going to be the same person I was ever. And I know people miss that person, certain people, and it stinks, but I'm never going to be that person again. It's just not, that's not how this works. So we need to be careful with each other. And I think we should be treating each other better, especially online. You don't know who's paying attention. And if that comment you're making is going to get copied to like 20 other posts just to make the internet look full, like if that's what they're doing, then at least let's teach the AI to be kind to us or whatever, you know? Let's not be so hard on each other. So I don't think I go against all this. I would say all this is untrue. Most of it, I would argue against it. And I really want to know when it was written. Not this one. Huh. Why can't, whatever. Why can't I see it right? Hold, please. How old is this? I just want to know when it was written. I bet it would be after 2017. I bet it's like 2019, 2020. You're not even going to tell me? I told you it sounded like a retreat ad. What did the Incas use cacao for? Same thing. Feasts. Deities were worshipped for bringing cacao to the world, and it was used in ritual ceremonies, feasts, and festivals. So deities were worshipped for bringing cacao. So I want to see if it explains spirits of the stone to be sacrificed. But I want to know. Gift from the gods. Yeah. They found it in Ecuador recently. Cacao was highly emphasized in religion with the Mayas, as they believe cacao was discovered by the gods in a mountain. Today we consume chocolate. We crave something sweet. Sorry about that. As a warm drink on a cold day, yada yada. You're a good writer. We're just researching right now. Chocolate and cacao were staples in pre-Columbian traditions, religion, status, and health, and are portrayed in several artifacts and evidence we used to study the history today. Hershey's and Ghirardelli. Oh, I like Ghirardelli chocolate. And I haven't ate any chocolate, and I usually had like a little Hershey a day or something like that to keep me balanced. But I haven't had any chocolate since I started reading about this, because it makes me feel some type of way now. There were various methods of using cacao beans depending on the outcome these people desired. In The Bitter and Sweet of Chocolate in Europe, it is expressed that cacao could be made into ritual offerings, beverages, and even currency during this time period. Inscriptions on monogram vases, such as the one below, strongly reflect how the Mesoamericas invested meaning in cacao through their consumption and production. Through these and many other inscriptions, we are able to understand the presence of cacao and chocolate through one's life during marriage rituals, religious practices, and at funerals. So if it really makes it easier, there you see the bunny, where they were talking about how many beans it was for a bunny. Okay, and there you see the snake, of course. And why do the people look like that? Like, they don't look like, I don't know, is that just how they drew? Something's up with the noses, guys, because even like the guys on Easter Island, the noses being knocked off of a lot of statues. We did a video on that, and we're going to have to do another one on it for the newer people, because I think it was on the old channel. But it was a super fun search, but it's weird. Like, it gets weird. At marriages, chocolate beverages were shared between the groom and the bride's father. The groom and the bride's father. During a premarital discussion. In contrast, cacao was dried and dyed red during funeral processions and was believed to ease the soul into the afterlife, as portrayed in the image below. I want to know, the Egyptians knew everything. I want to know if the Egyptians did this. No, I don't want to. Jeez almighty. What is Egyptian coffee? Trust me, it's called ahwa. It is sometimes referred to as Turkish coffee, but it is different. It's Turkish coffee done Egyptian style. It is thick and espresso-like with the ground coffee called bon sitting at the bottom. It is served in a little cup and is so aromatic and yummy. No, ancient Egyptians and coffee. Let's just punch in a bunch of words there and see what comes up. What is the authentic cacao ceremony? We read that. I want to know if the Egyptians used it in their ancient peoples and psychoactive plants. Cacao was consumed primarily by adult males of high status, priests, high government officials. Isn't that something? I'm concerned about it, like, opening up my mind or heart too much around people that I don't want my mind or heart open to. And I don't mean to be stone cold. I mean, I don't want my thoughts being read and all that. I pray all the time. That stuff should be something bothers me about that. Like, I don't like that. And it's not that I have anything to hide. It's that, to me, it's like a violation of your free will. Like, your mind should definitely be your own. That's one place that should be just yours. And God's, like, if you consent to even that. And God is a gentleman and allows us to say no to him. The other one is the one who is forceful and regimented and wants you to be like everyone else and wants to bleed the authenticity from you, which is where a lot of the cults go wrong. They end up dressing everybody the same and want everybody being the same. That's not the point of any of it. I don't think. I mean, that's just my opinion. Egypt today. I want to know what they did back in the day, like way back in the day. Ancient psychedelics. They're rating it in ancient way, or speaking in ancient terms, they are rating coffee as a psychedelic, which is bizarre. It must be really different than coffee today because I don't find it to be that way. That's wild to me. I heard there was evidence of substances in Egyptian tombs that could have only come from the Americas: cocoa, tobacco, coffee. Hold, please. I want to look at this real quick. And I hate how Quora is set up, but a colleague of mine, I wanted to see this answer. A colleague of mine, because he says, wrote privately in 2011, a number of Egyptian mummies historically dated between 1070 and 395 contain metabolized products of nicotine and also of cocaine and hashish in various body parts. Well, cocaine was a medicine at first too. Like they handed that out. Like opium was a thing. Like you could get whatever in a little bottle. Today, like I think, and today, like I think you only have to get it from somebody and get it prescribed, is because they want to be scientists. They want to follow the effects it has on you, right? That's the only way they're going to learn. And when you go to the doctor, that is you giving yourself up for some type of experimentation. And that's the truth. I'm not trying to be mean. I like my doctor. It's the truth. The analyses were sophisticated and sufficiently determinative to withstand criticisms launched against them. Page 93. Coke from the Andes was present in the Egyptian mummies. Hashish, a Central and South Asian native, was present in South American mummies. It seems probable that the plant exchange took place at about the same time as tobacco. Yep, insect pests infesting mummies in both Egypt and South America probably made the crossing at the same time and could have come via India. One voyage from America to India, then movement to the Near East, or by separate voyages. Yeah, I don't think that's how it happened at all. This is very interesting in the beginning, but I personally, as far as travel goes, you all know I have issues with anything that they tell us. I don't know how it's done. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's just me. And like that thing too, like when CV first started, Like, they did a travel ban, and I was like, hey, I'll just fly down to Joshua's Tree so I can do that park thing before I get too old. And literally, the day I was gonna like overcome my fear and like consider flying, those travel bans went out. It's too many coincidences at this time. Something is definitely not right. So I don't see, I want to look up something. How about this? Chocolate ancient gods. Let's just do that and we'll see what comes up. Okay, we know the Olmecs. We know that. Oh my gosh. Feathered serpent deity. And they say that's what America means. But that says Quetzalcoatl. So is that, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say something weird. But is this feathered serpent deity, is he one of the powers or principalities that is over America? And this is why some of the stuff is going on that's going on? Wow, that's bizarre. How did it get there in the first place? Cocoa tree was taken from a sacred mountain by the feathered serpent deity, Quetzalcoatl. The god gave the cocoa to the Toltec people and taught their women to make drinking chocolate. It seems to be all women. Yeah, I know. I think we're all connected too, and I hate to say this, but all you see in the Bible is people walking, 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 walking. You see a little bit of talk about boats. You hear nothing about an ocean. There's only seas in the Bible and rivers. You don't really hear about lakes. And I'm coming to find a lot more lakes than I thought are man-made. If you look, I mean, you could go look it up. But almost everything that I thought to be like real in this place is not real. I would not be surprised if we could walk somehow, some way to other countries. We know with how the tide works, sometimes the tide is high, sometimes the tide is low. Rivers are in the Bible, rivers and seas, but that's it. There's nothing about ponds, there's nothing about lakes. There is stuff about lakes in like Greek mythology, because you have Narcissus looking into his reflection. So you do have it there. But then look at it's Greek mythology. It's the little g gods, right? I'm really wondering how many of us have mixed bloodlines. Like, I really want to know. And it's not, I don't want to know because I think like I don't seek to do any harm. I just want to know because I want to know if there's actually like a difference. Who is the Mayan god of chocolate? What is the Greek mythology of chocolate? Theobroma comes from ancient Greek and translates as food of the gods. See, it's a Greek word. Anytime you have a doctor or somebody discovering something, things are going to get Latin names or Greek names. Cacao is the Mayan root word retained by the Spanish colonizers of Mesoamerica to describe the tree and its produce. So you hear about the Spanish Inquisition and how the colonization was horrible, but then on the other hand, you hear that all these people just disappeared. So which is it? Were they just like trafficked into another place? And human traffic, like literally. Did they have to go and be nomads and go somewhere else? Like, we really have to break down these words and ask ourselves why they're using the words that they're using. Why are you calling it traffic? Why is that assimilation being made? It's just strange the way they put things out. Resets. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, we have to understand that they are smarter than us. We can't get too arrogant with any of this. This is why we need God's help, especially. But there's something, I think reincarnation equals resets. That's what I think. But somehow they're able to do it and put other spirits into other bodies. And I would assume it's through the use of things like coffee and the Buddhist bowls, because we talked about that, and the golden child with Eddie Murphy. And that's how they got the spirit. The spirit stayed in the bowl until it was ready to go into the other vessel. You know, this stuff sounds like sci-fi. I know that it sounds crazy. I know how I sound. But I've seen too much, and you guys have been with me the whole time. This is why I talk about my testimony, because I need someone to bounce it off of. I can't just be an echo chamber. I have to have someone to answer to and help me check and balance. And I'm like, man, I saw this person. They were physically in a place. They talked to other people. They touched physical things in front of me. They smiled at me or looked at me, but there was no recognition. They didn't say hello. And a couple of them didn't answer to their old names. Now, again, I'm being blackballed in the community, so it might be that. Same thing in The Mummy and tons of other movies. Yeah, I didn't watch the Mummy movies. Mummies don't really interest me. I think they're fake. Let me be very clear. I don't think those are real. The reason they put all their stuff there is because they don't actually die, and they want their gold. They want their stuff that they've collected, right? They do get to take it with them because they're not going anywhere. They're just going into a different vessel. Look up the last one with Tom Cruise. Oh, the Mummy movie was okay. See, I don't care for him. I watched the Brendan Fraser one. I don't care for Tom Cruise. Like, that's a little secret. Number one, I don't think it's the same person anymore. I think a lot of actors are AI images at this point. A lot of them willingly sold their images. I think it was Brad Pitt's wife, what's her name? Angelina Jolie. I think she was talking about it when she was making that Maleficent. They were showing how the special effects were taking place. And they said, now we can just add the face through AI. Because oh, that's Jive. Did it just go off? Did it just boot everybody? I'm sorry if it did. I apologize. Only one person here, and we're at 126, so I'm probably going to end this. But yeah, I will look that up. These are definitely things that we need to talk about more. But this is just, I was doing this as an example, just to kind of highlight how many things do we do throughout the day? What pets do we invite into our homes? What beings, what individuals do we interact with throughout the day that maybe are not good for us, that maybe we should not? Is this really how we are made? Like, God made them from mud. Are they, because they're, you know what I mean? Is that how we get our colors? Like, what did God make me of? And at least they're not yellow. I mean, they're not yellow like corn. But I don't understand some of this. So does this, like, do they basically, how do they recognize, or what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, geez, me and my words today. How do they resolve that within themselves? So do they think they have one God and every other like types of people has other gods? Or they just don't know any other people, right? Like they don't know that there's other people inhabiting things. So all they know is that they are there and that's their God. I'm not trying to sound ignorant as in stupid. I genuinely just want to know how they went about this. And if, do the fallen angels have children? Did the serpent go and make children like this? A lot of us think that there's a serpent line that came from Eve, but were there other ways that this was happening? There are so many different myths that we have to, I guess, keep digging and try to figure out what is true. Chocolate elixirs were drinks of the rulers like famed Aztec Emperor Montezuma II, who was rumored to have drunk dozens of pitchers of the frothy drink a day. It must have been really good back then. Like, I don't really like hot cocoa in a package. They're not great. What did the Mayans believe about chocolate? Praise chocolate, drink of the gods. Okay. So now we know kind of where this practice comes from. I have one of our subscriber friends sending us more information. So, oh, that's different. So we are going to probably do a part 3 of this when that information comes through my email. Because I talked to her about it in the comments already. And it seems like she found some interesting links. So we're going to look at that. Oh, wow, this is cool. Let's end it here. Chocolate, the blood of the gods. Mythology taught that, and I'm not saying that again, came to earth on the beam of a morning star, bearing cacao trees from paradise, and gave it to the people. They learned how to roast and grind cacao seeds and made a nourishing thick paste, which can be dissolved into water. They added spices and called this drink cocoa, bitter water, nahuatl, and believed that it afforded nourishment and good judgment. Cacao was very precious to the Aztecs, and as a drink, it was restricted to the nobles and for use in religious ceremonies. Much as bread and wine are used by Christians as the body and blood of Christ, the flesh of the pod and the drink made from it represented the body and blood of the gods. Using a little imagination, when cocoa is crushed, it often resembles blood. Wow. I think I'm going to end that there, but that's dang when you consider how similar all of our stories are. Are we just the same souls and we keep reliving the same story over and over again with different names? Is that why the civilization disappears? Because it becomes another civilization? What do you guys think? Let's talk about it in the comments, and let me know what you would like the next video to be on. Because I said earlier, this is a nice segue into a couple other topics as well. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Watch for a couple of shorts. I uploaded a video yesterday, but it's kind of super long, so I did not let it stay on the channel. I'm thinking of a way to break it up into smaller bits. And I am thinking of posing that question that I have for the LDS members in a short video. So if you are in the LDS church and you're one of those people, one of my friends from that church, I got some questions for you guys. So please do hit me up when you get time. All right. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Have a great day.